Hello everyone, my name is Tori.
And I'm Tatum.
And welcome to Living the Legacy. In this series, we'll be interviewing both of our grandfathers about what life was like for African Americans in the South pre, during, and post the Civil Rights Movement.
We'll also be getting their viewpoints on today's current situations.
Now, in one of our upcoming episodes, we'll talk about economic opportunities for African Americans before the Civil Rights Movement. But that's actually related to this episode, which is about military service.
Yes, because as you'll see, many African Americans had few opportunities for employment because of the discriminatory hiring practices. So for many, the best job opportunities that were left was military service.
Yes, and both of our grandfathers served our country bravely and honorably overseas as well as in combat for several decades in the military, despite not being afforded equal treatment because of the color of their skin.
So when you got older and decided you wanted to join the military, what made you choose to serve a country that didn't treat you fairly?
What made me do that? That was the last thing on my mind. The first thing on my mind was that I was not going to work in the steel mill. It was in July. I hadn't heard anything back from Tuskegee Institute if I was going to be accepted. And so I went down to the Navy recruiting office and I took their test and I raised my hand and said, I'll go, because I'm not going to wait for Tuskegee any longer. But if I had waited 2 weeks, I never would have met your grandmother. I would have been at Tuskegee instead of the Navy.
I thought you couldn't join college because you had to make money for your family, so you joined the Navy.
Well, that was a part of it too. I was not going to work in the plant. And my father had enough burdens on him as it was, taking care of my younger sisters and brothers. And so I just didn't feel that I needed to stay at home, to tell you the truth, just to be another mouth for him to feed and to live under his roof. So I figured I need to get out on my own. I was 18 years old and I was old enough to leave the house. So that's what I did.
I didn't decide. I was drafted. I didn't go because I volunteered to go. I went because I was drafted. So I obeyed the law and went and served. And once I got in, I said, well, I had gone to Vietnam and served in the war and all that stuff and came back. I said, well, why should I get out and start teaching school and make less money? I could stay in, make more money.
As far as a country that didn't care anything about you, I found out that was true. I came home from, I went to San Diego, California for boot camp, Navy boot camp. And so after I finished boot camp, instead of listening to the smart people and getting myself an airline ticket, I decided to ride the bus from California to Alabama.
No.
So it was okay coming out of California, but when we got to Louisiana, all of a sudden, that doggone sign that I was telling you about that said white and colored appeared inside the bus. So Black people had to move on the other side of that sign. So the bus stopped in Louisiana. I was in my Navy uniform now, and I got off the bus and I was headed toward the front entrance of the Greyhound bus station. And there was this policeman, because the Freedom Riders were very active at the time. And there was this policeman. That way, boy. And I'm in my Navy uniform. I'm here protecting. I've raised my hand to protect this country. And he tells me that I can't go in the front door, that I got to go to the back. And he meant it. He meant it. So that was one of the things that kind of crushed me as I got back on that building. And it was something I've never forgotten, is that being a Black man, or at the time a Negro, serving his doggone country in his uniform, he cannot go in the front door.
Like the whole time you were serving, were you like complaining that you didn't have to do this because you didn't want to serve a country that was racist?
I had reservations, especially when I was flying bombing missions in Vietnam. I thought that the war was probably morally wrong, but I had no choice but to do my duty. The Vietnamese people did nothing to me, but I had to go drop bombs on them. So yeah, I felt I had reservations about doing that. And a lot of people did. And that's why we had the protest, the Vietnam War protest that you probably read about in your history books. There were a lot of people against that war. And I was against it, but I had no choice but to participate.
Yeah.
Other than maybe leave the country.
And I should have known more. I should have known better than that, because when I went down to the induction center in Montgomery, and again, you're going to say, no, this didn't happen. Yes, it did. When I went took my little entrance exam to join the Navy, guess who scored the highest of the group that was going down? Guess. Me. So you know what my reward was? My reward was to be responsible for carrying everybody's records. And also with the records, there was these vouchers for us to eat dinner. So we get on the bus in Birmingham, we get to Montgomery, we go to this restaurant, white guys and black guys. I'm in charge of white guys. For the first time in my life, I'm actually in charge of white guys. They don't know it though. So, but they found out though. We get to the restaurant, getting ready to go through the front door. Here comes the manager. Hey, hello, fellas. Who has the vouchers? And I say, I do. He says, well, let me have them. Give him the vouchers. And he said, you guys go over there. And the white guys went through the front door. Now, and he says, you guys follow me. We follow him around the back. And in the back, there were some tables set up inside in the kitchen for us to eat.
You probably got the hottest food, you know? They didn't have to.
And the most. The hottest and the most ice cream and cake and pies and everything you want to eat. Them black people back there hooked us up. But this was all Navy sanctions now. They knew this was happening.
Yeah.
And this is what they did. So, you know, I should have known.
All the other white people that you were like in charge of, were they like, oh, sorry, buddy, or not buddy, I guess. Sorry,
No,
sorry, man.
No, they didn't say anything. When we finished eating, of course, they came back out and we met up. And it was the strangest thing. When we finally got to the induction center, it was totally integrated, right in the heart of Montgomery. But the induction center was on a military place. Mm-hmm. And everybody in there was no segregation in there at all. And all of a sudden, these white guys were the coolest guys in the world. They were. They knew how to play tonk. They knew how to play all kind of card games. Where they learned this stuff. But they laughed. They were smoking cigarettes. They was having a good time. Oh, it seemed like that they had forgotten that we were in Alabama. Everybody had forgotten we was in Alabama. Everybody was laughing and talking and slapping hands and all kind of stuff. And I say, you know, this is, you know, it just was a nice, a little nice break from what I had been subjected to.
All right, everyone. Well, that concludes the first episode of Living the Legacy. In our next episode, we'll interview our grandfathers, asking them what it was like living amongst the Jim Crow laws and pre-civil rights movement.
Thanks for tuning in.
If you learned something from this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And remember to share our grandfather's story by sharing this video.